We are live with Losers Bracket Podcast round 113, and this week we have David Ting, General Manager of eSports for IGN Entertainment, with us again. We're going to be talking some IGN Pro League, some general eSports as well, get some news later on in the show. But as always, I definitely want to start things off by introducing my co-hosts. As always, I have Lord Jareth with me, owner and founder of VV Gaming, as well as Kurt from Check 6. Kurt, starting off with you, like normal, how are you doing this week, my friend? How are things going in the world of Check 6? You know, everything?
Doing really well. Planning for MLG Anaheim. We have a lot of amazing stuff coming up, so those of you that are going to Anaheim, please message me, let us know, because we've got some really cool stuff coming up at Check 6 and, you know, MLG Anaheim in general. So let us know. Really great week for esports. Lots of good and cool news coming out. But yeah, how about you, Jerry?
Oh, things are good. Yeah, really congratulations. A lot of good things happening in Check 6. I think you're being modest about that. I think it's a lot of good investments are paying off. I think it's really good. So congratulations on that, Kurt.
Fingers crossed.
I know, right? It's a big event coming up.
Yeah.
I'm well. Busy week. For those of you who've been following know that I got a promotion, so I'm horribly busy. I have all the time I've hid from clients and other things like that. I'm now the point person. So so far so good. So far so good. But it keeps me busier at times than I'd like. I have less time to what's the technical term? Oh yeah, fuck off at work. You know, I don't have that time anymore. So they keep me busy. So, but it's good for the pocketbook and it's good for my career, I suppose. So it's good. But speaking of careers, let's talk about esports. Things are, I don't know. I am a happy guy. I am driving my staff to death because there's such a big opportunity coming up, and we have one of those people who creates opportunities tonight, Jason. So let's get to it.
Most definitely. We are just about to introduce him. Before we do, make sure you have tweeted that we are live because we have the man with us from IGN's IPL, David Ting. Sir, how are you doing tonight? Glad you could join us again.
Very good. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Awesome. Yeah, this is your second time joining us. Since the last time, lots has changed. How have you personally been, and what's going on in the world of IGN?
We've been really busy behind the scenes. So IPL 4 was a tremendous success for IGN. We did double the amount of views as our traditional E3 event, which used to be the biggest event at IGN. Now, you know, eSports has taken the lead. It's more than just a slight lead. We almost tripled the amount of views of last year's E3. So it really speaks volumes of the amount of interest esports is generating.
Most definitely. Go ahead, Kurt. I heard you breathe.
Yeah, I did too. That was Kurt. Go right ahead, Kurt.
Did I really? I thought,
no, you got so excited. I heard it. You're just like, ooh, oh God, we have a really cool guest. Let's talk. Go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, he hasn't mentioned FPS games yet, so I'm not quite that excited yet. Now, come on.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, David, as you know, all of us did. We really tuned into IPL 4. It was absolutely amazing. Before we get too much on the IPL 4, though, I mean, how have you been? I know, trust me, I understand probably. Well, I'm not going to say better than anyone by any means, but just like you, working in the behind the scenes of esports is daunting, to say the least. Are you still? I know when you first came into the space, you were incredibly passionate, incredibly go get them. Are you still that same way? Do you feel a little more sheltered now? Are you more fired up than ever?
We're more fired up than ever. So if you look at behind the scenes at IGN, I did an executive briefing of what we did at IPL 4, as well as many of the execs on IGN actually attended the event in person. So I didn't even have to finish my sentence during my debrief. There's a lot of people jumping in, like our CEO, our CFO, our CTO, just really going in and talking about great things about, what has happened. And a lot of them basically watch esports for the first time. So they get to be a fan themselves. And a lot of them spend enough time there that they really love StarCraft and League of Legends, and also had a chance to talk to the crowd. So really what that means is behind the scenes, IGN has a lot of resources. Up to this point, IPL has been kind of more of an experiment. So officially, we're shaking off that title. And we're now officially a division within IGN. We're officially a focus. And this also means that we have more resources at our disposal. You'll see like IGN referring to IPL more in the future and pushing, esports more in the future. So a lot of great things to come. And then speaking of like events, in the past, we only can do one event at a time because of budget constraints. And, I got blessing to go ahead and tackle 6 events at a time. So I'm in the process of negotiating those deals. And you'll see us, just going through and announcing that, all in a rapid sequence, well into 2013.
Awesome. That's fantastic news. I've got a little bit of question about that as far as, the pitching goes, I guess, as you say, telling the executives and stuff like that. I suppose I'm very familiar with that, just like Jerry and anyone else. You have these certain people like yourself that understood esports before, and then they go into, like you said before, you were originally an engineer with IGN, correct?
That's correct.
So you knew about esports before, and you went in and you pitched this thing, and I feel like you kind of put yourself on the line a little bit. Are we starting to really see heads turn in the executive world? Actually say, hey, maybe this Ting guy was right. Are we starting to see that a little more?
I did rub it into it a little bit because my team actually, before I walked into the debrief, he said, "Are you going to gloat, David?" And I said, "Knowing me, I will." So honestly, I think when we started, I think IPL 1 and 2 were really tough. 3 was extremely difficult. Because perception around the table is this is niche, it's a sport for nerds. And I basically told him, I said, no, guys, this is a mainstream sport of the future. You're just seeing it from the ground floor. This is eBay. And then back in eBay days when they got started, they say, a website for garage sales, and that's the extent of your vision. It's a huge disparity between where I'm going to take it. So right now, I think the perception, just because this is so much bigger than E3 traditionally, E3 is our biggest event. It really just, has a strong statement saying, hey, we're here to stay. On top of it, we only carry 2 games right now, right? So StarCraft 2 and League of Legends, and I think that they're great games, full credit for them for our success. But then if you look at other games that we don't cover, there's so many ripe opportunities to make this even bigger. So I think the executive team really sees this. I'm getting some help on the team as well, to help on the sales front as well as the BD front. And also a lot of our contractors are being converted to full-time employees. So really we're doing all of the right things. And really, what is the most satisfying thing for me is not basically, talking to execs that, hey, you're right, I'm right, or hey, this is so big that, let's just monetize the hell out of this. It's really about, my team, the guys who like work night and day, sweating, all of the long hours that's required to run events. I'm able to pay back a little bit of what they have delivered, and that feels really good for me.
That is awesome. That's good to hear. Those are good. So good business terms. Converting contractors, more resources, aka more money. Really good stuff. So congratulations on that. Glad that IGN executives are seeing the value of esports. That's fantastic. But I'm sure a lot of listeners probably leaned in a little bit closer because they said, yeah, there are other games besides StarCraft and League of Legends. And we know Jedi Rob's there, so we'll start with an obvious one. I suppose that fighters are definitely still on the horizon. And then let's talk about what else you're looking at, and more importantly, why you're looking at it.
Okay, sure. So fighters is natural. Jedi Rob is awesome. Having him being so close to the community, I have an advisor that can partner with me to do it right. So we don't, spoil all the goodwill that have been generated over the last, decade. So that's why we hired him. And that's why he's, my point man to basically advise us on a strategy. So we're in the process of adding a few titles, and we're going to announce them pretty soon. Some of them are the Holy Grail titles. We're still working on those, and I hope that we can include those as part of the announcement. And some of those are the kind of more of the, the regular titles that people have seen and being accustomed to. So for me, it's more about, for fighters, it is really an easy way to get people who are not familiar with esports to love esport, because it's so easy from a graphic perspective and from a game design perspective to understand what's happening on the screen, and it's very engaging. So for me, it's almost like adding a suite of titles that basically is like a beginner's guide for all of the millions of IGN users who is not familiar with esports, as a really easy starting point to get to love esports. And that's why strategically it's so important for me. And then when we do it, we're going to do it the same way we did StarCraft and, League of Legends. We're going to do, regular daily content, just so that people, when they, want something to see, they can just tune into our channels and watch fighters on a daily basis. So
daily basis is a pretty often basis, David.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think that regularity is basically the key to convert a lot of fans. High quality on a consistent basis, is really what we strive for at IGN Pro League. So, and then we're also looking at some of the regular suspects, right? First person shooter, definitely looking at them. There's a lot of interesting discussions happening there. There's also like mobile games, sports franchise, racing, anything that you can imagine with a big audience, we're talking to, and we're really asking the hard question, hey, is this a real good esports title, or is it more of an exhibition title? And then just really working, with the publishers and just really make sure that they, have a platform to funnel their marketing dollars into.
David, I want to jump in on that, because that's such a, we're in a time where a couple publishers really get it. Blizzard and Riot come to mind right off the top. They really get it. Do you feel that's changing in other organizations? Do you think that more are getting it? Do you think there are still hurdles in expressing that value to developers, or they're slow to adjust? What's been your experience recently as far as other developers besides the Riot and the Blizzards?
I think everybody is looking at particular Riot success, because it doesn't have the rich history that Blizzard has with esports, and they've seen like esport is complementary to Riot strategy. Other publishers know that building esports into the game is important. So some of the mega franchises that we come to know, I can't disclose any names, but if you think about the title ownership is one of the highest ones, they're building esports right into the game themselves, and it's part of the design. And then just hearing that from the developer just really warms my heart, just telling us that, hey, we have arrived in the scene. And then but the key here is to take it with caution and with great care too, because it takes many iterations to get it right. And it's really about getting the users engaged, getting their feedback, continue to build it back into the game. And then, having the time span and the patience to invest in it for several years to make it successful. And that's why I'm preaching back to the publisher, saying that it's not a one and done deal. If you want esports to love you, endorse you, it's like you have to spend a portion of your development dollars, just keep on investing in it and just constantly improving the experience. And I hear that. And we're hearing a lot of people who want to do that. And then like a call today was very encouraging. Basically, people said, I never had a call as publisher that start with this. They say, like, tell us what your plan is, because we want to change our game to adapt to your plans. Just make us our game integrate into your vision. I said, wow, is it a dream? Is it true? I had to pinch myself to say, gosh, that's awesome. Let's work together and make it like great for the fans. And I think that having that type of attitude from both sides, it just really is a recipe for success for the long haul.
Do you feel right now, when you look at obviously I think clearly there are a lot of opportunities. You're sort of sensing those many opportunities. You talked about something I want to talk about a little more, because I think sometimes to players, they're not quite sure what it means, but it's a little bit about that trial and error. I think MLG gets to do it and has done it historically. And you use the term exhibition. And let me ask this question. Would it be fair to say that for those who don't know, exhibition is a really good way to give you an opportunity to sense what that game's experience would be like for audience members and fans, and then give you a chance to sort of get it right, as you say, and that exhibition is probably an important part of your strategy moving forward?
Absolutely. I think it's a key part of getting a greater adoption. So if you look at esports, if there's only one or two titles, one of the fears I have is that, if the publisher, not saying like, it will run, Blizzard or Riot will run into this case. So say, supposedly a hypothetical publisher basically becomes struggling. There goes, our esports world will be changed, right? It's we don't have the support for the game anymore. It's not innovating at the pace that it used to, and it is basically going to slow us down, right? So having more publishers is a great thing, and then also, we need to develop an affinity to help the publishers to understand our world, so we have more innovation, and it makes our overall experience and choice better, right? So. And then the last part is the money, right? So what is important, what people don't see is that game developers spend a lot of money to get the word out that game is great, right? So this is where the esports world and us can come back and help them, because in saying like, hey, if you develop a couple of features like this, we'll totally buy the title. Not only this, I will tell my friend. They understand that we're a very, very influential group. We're the early adopters. And this is why they're spending the time with us and also funneling some of their marketing dollars to get our opinion and also get the word out. And this is where we as a community need to basically reciprocate and really help them to find a couple more successes beyond Blizzard and Riot. And this is where, their success means like more dollars will be spent on esports, more players can pursue their dreams, and more prize pools, the big prize pools will be announced, and more people can, make a living playing games full time.
Well, thinking about that, Kurt, I'm going to turn it over to you only because I know how you are, and I'm thinking about other developers, and you probably got a few developers you like, so I'm going to give it to you, Kurt.
Wouldn't necessarily say like, but I got one or two, I suppose. No, I do want to ask a quick question, because you mentioned something about, like you said, working with other titles and with other, I guess, genres is the best way to put it in this scene. Mm-hmm. The one thing that if I could give one thing about IPL that's always, I'm not necessarily worried me, but it's always been one of those things that's in the back of my mind constantly. You guys have hired great people. I love almost everyone there. Two of the people that you hire are on my team, so I hope I like them.
Yes.
But people like Ash Joshi and Frank and all those guys are really, really amazing people. That being said, you've also kind of stuck it, other than Jedi Rob, as far as I know, to specific genres. Frank, is a heavy, RTS guy. Same for Joshi and stuff like that. I suppose I look at a situation where you're supposed to constantly hire people smarter than you in certain areas. Are you looking to possibly hire people in those specific genres, just like you did for RTS, whether it be FPS or more people in fighting game or people in mobile, anything like that?
Or have you already?
I
can just say, like, on the fighters, we definitely are in the process of, making sure that the sponsorship pipeline is there. And once it's there, we're going to go in and open a couple of recs and hire a full team to help Rob out. Rob is great, but he needs support to do fighters right. Like, we need to get daily content. So that is probably within the next 3 months. So you'll see it in IPL 5, in action in IPL 5. So what's next is that, we're doing the same thing in parallel. I have a lot of parallel discussion. I haven't really decided. But the next possibility is, first-person shooter. So we're likely going to take the same approach, hire somebody from the community really to lead up the effort, and really just repeat the same formula. Like what I said is that especially like, for the fighters and first-person shooter, I respect the history there, and I don't want to, pretend I have the knowledge to run those. And so my knowledge is basically spent behind the scenes, making sure it's properly funded. And there's a platform for, these stars, community stars, to come in and to excel and then to make these franchises the stars they should deserve. And then really, like, I'm just playing a support role for those guys. And then, we're looking for good people all the time. And if you have some recommendation, let me know afterwards. And definitely will respect your opinion and figuring out, how to properly expand there.
David, I always ask, sorry, Kurt, I always ask about specific titles, and I want to sort of get a feel for, to 2 or 3 in the first-person shooter world, and I don't know. I know you probably can't say a lot, and that's why you're being purposely vague. But let's start with this. Can you console, PC? Do you know where you're looking at for first-person shooters and why?
So I am trying to push for a console one, even though there's 2 titles for PCs I really like. So I'll be specific on those. I'm really intrigued by Firefall.
I think it's a good choice. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I really like it. The only issue with me is that IGN, if you look at the demographic, it's console heavy. It's very PC light. So I want to pick a set of titles that are PC rich so I can funnel some of the IGN users and help grow esports. So that's why I'm leaning toward consoles, even though I love Firefall. Like I always talk about Counter-Strike Go. That's a great title. And then if you look at the console side, the 2 obvious ones, if you ask anyone, it's like Call of Duty and Halo. So we're, having discussions there, haven't made a decision, but we're just being educated on the possibilities there. If you look at them, they have great launch plans, and we just really want to dig into it and really just make a proper choice. For me, I'm not greedy. For a first-person shooter, we're probably going to start with one and expand the portfolio as we do the first one right and have the bandwidth to cover other ones.
That would be very
David, yeah.
So one second.
Do you need to go, Jason?
One second. I was just going to say, comment. That would be very interesting to see IPL looking at Halo, just because of the fact that it has just moved off the MLG circuit, and there are so many people that are so vocal right now saying, well, where are we going to go play? Where are we going to go play? That almost seems very strategic and a way to bring in an entirely new audience into IPL. Very interesting to hear that. Kurt, continue.
Yeah, I mean, my only suggestion, and I want to know what your opinions on it. You've said openly before that you look for a title that is very, very long term. You look for a title that is going to sort of stick with you throughout the ride, something that you can completely build your entire portfolio of content on. How do you plan on doing that with a game like, let's say, like Call of Duty, that's a new title's released every year? I mean, that's really the problem that I've always had with titles like that. I mean, how do you build content on something that you don't know how the developer's going to be for you the next time around?
Yeah, so the key here is to be agile, right? So like what I said, the relationship with the developer is key. So I hope that, many of our, the leagues around, would have the relationship with the publisher where they, take feedback. When they're building on the next title, they actually get the opinion from the esports world as part of their feature list, right? So that is the ideal situation. And then when we talk to the developer, that's one of the critical factors for our decision, is to really make sure there's a partnership going both ways. We have that with Blizzard. They constantly balances the game, and they put a lot of care, like, harder to swarm. Now we have, the replay. We can actually resume from replay for multiplayer. This is something that IPL 4 people call for, and they put it into the next expansion pack. That's a great thing to see, right? You want that on a first-person shooter side. So this is why I have affinity for, titles such as Firefall, because it's a title, it's an evergreen title, kind of like League of Legends, and then it's constantly updated with the feedback from the community. And then if you look at bigger titles like Call of Duty, right, there's a yearly release. So the way to work with the developer is to make sure that yearly release, the stuff that is working in the esports world, doesn't get broken on their new release. And this is where the voice has to be strong enough for us to adopt the title. And I think that we have a couple of encouraging discussions that that makes us think that that's the case. And then the key here is that we prove it out. And this is where exhibition works, right? So we may only exhibit, put it, instead of holding it in our circuit, we exhibit, have exhibition matches, have a trial period with the developers. And if it looks good, we adopt it as an official part of the circuit, because it takes a lot of investment to create that daily content and then to basically, bake it into our tournament system. And then that's basically why the exhibition system is so important for leagues like MLG and us.
Gotcha. Let me ask you one more question just about working with developers, and I'm going to pass off to Jerry because I know he's got a question. I understand this is probably going to be a tough question to answer, and if you have to be vague, I completely understand. But as I wouldn't be myself if I didn't ask this question. You mentioned that you've talked to Valve, you've at least been in talks with them, whether it be about Dota, whether it be about Counter-Strike, it doesn't really matter. But what I am curious about is Valve historically has not been the most supportive, historically speaking. That being said, it's changed a lot from 10 years ago, in the sense of esports has. 10 years ago, they wouldn't release a map that was, that was going to help us out any. But that's tend to change. Do you see, specifically in Valve, do you see a little bit more of an opening there towards esports at all? Can you mention that at all?
Yeah, well, all I gotta say is that I visited Valve one time, so I haven't built the deep relationship that I have with Blizzard and Riot. So it's still really young in our discussion. And then my feeling is that our talk is they're not quite there. They're not at par with, like, say, with Red 5 Studio with Firefall, for example, right? So Firefall, they have people who are in the esports world. They really know it, the frag dolls, and they drive the esports strategy. I think Valve basically, still treats esports the same way. They basically want to be supportive. They gave us beta keys to try it out. They give us, they would support our, us using the title on the circuit. But, beyond that, I don't see more than that. And, from my standpoint, and just, speaking for myself, I want to basically develop that long-term strategic partnership. And, they're definitely not a leader of the pack, when we're actually looking at it from that angle.
David, let me pop back in then, and that brings up an interesting question, because obviously Valve's been around a long time, and then you take someone like Red 5 Studio, who obviously is doing Firefall, and a lot of people in the beginning questioned whether or not they got esports, but clearly, I've been watching it, and I honestly don't believe they got it in the beginning, but it's really nice to see a developer really try to get it. Like, they have really tried to get it, and they're really making good strides in their game to get that. Do you have other stories like that? Someone else you can think of that might be on the radar screen that's doing good things like that?
I think EA is doing great things on their sports titles. They understand esports. They want to build it into their game engine. I think Activision, if you look at Call of Duty, they understand it, and they're building into engine. The fighters, there are plenty of fighters, the publishers looking at esports, they're building into their game engine. So I think the publishers all understand that there's an important component now, because being able to watch the game, ensures a longevity. And there's also potential for them to switch business models in the future. And then when I, talk to them, I always try to convince them. I say, hey, if there's any business model to watch, it's really Riot's, the free-to-play, really just building the monetization engine right in. So that's why, I am optimistic on Firefall. But the question is that when are they going to be ready? Because they're relatively new to the scene, and even them, they know, like, it will not be esports ready until 2013. So it makes it a great exhibition title, but not a great tournament title this year. But I'm actually optimistic that they can, step up the game, just because they just need to put more dev time in there and get the community feedback and just improve their engine over time.
Let's talking about another genre we haven't mentioned that, I think a lot of people are looking at, again, very seriously. It's no lie that Blizzard's WoW title is aging, and it's also no lie that ArenaNet's Guild Wars 2 is arriving on the scene. Based on everything I've read and my own experience in the beta so far, I think probably have a home run on their hands. Where do you see Guild Wars 2 as far as, IPL is concerned? And have you had any contact with ArenaNet yet?
Yes, I have contact with ArenaNet. Just being very open on air, it's on me to get back to them. They have reached out proactively, and we have discussion. Just my bandwidth is limiting us to tackle the number of game genres. And then this is what I mean by, like, I'm very appreciative of the fact that, IGN is being supportive of the esports initiative. I'm getting help on the BD front and help on the sales front. So offload some of my day-to-day tasks to be able to focus on some of these more strategic initiatives. So I played the original version of Guild Wars, so I'm very optimistic. I haven't played the beta. We got beta keys, so I'm very optimistic on what that will entail and the experience that's going to provide for our audience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kurt. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me chime in here for just one more second about the fighting games. You mentioned, and I wrote this down, and I completely forgot to ask you before. You mentioned Holy Grail, quote unquote. I suppose, if you understand what that means, you could be talking about, Capcom. And the thing about Capcom, as I'm sure you know, they haven't had the best past in the world, history in the world with bigger organizations, whether it be MLG, IPL, WCG, anything else. How are you guys fixing that? I suppose Jedi Rob, of course, is an amazing person to hire for that as first. But you also did the IPL and IPL/IGN Street Fighter Cross Tekken thing for the big Texas event, which I watched. It went well, but it also had some shaky problems. I'm sure you guys know.
Yep.
Anyway, my main question is there: how is Capcom? Are they coming around? Or is it kind of like, well, we better back up?
So I think that one is a hard one to comment on. I don't want to risk our relationship to comment anything. I think that if I look at the big picture, they're definitely the Holy Grail, right? Mm-hmm. So the good thing about being part of IGN is that we have great relationship with Capcom, the publisher, for many years. Right? This is over a decade of relationship. Like IGN, wrote a lot of articles. There's people within the organization that know many people at Capcom. So I'm very optimistic, given our deep roots, that in close partnership in the past, that we're able to, get them to open up a bit. But then the key here is that I think there's discussion that's moving toward that direction, and I'm just we just have to move at the pace that the Capcom team is comfortable with, and I'm very respectful of what they're able to provide us, and as soon as they're available, like we're just put it in our tournament circuit because it's been proven.
Yeah, definitely. Jerry, do we have any more questions on titles? If not, I'm going to step back for a moment.
Yeah, let's actually walk. I think we covered most of the titles that we normally would look at, and I think I appreciate David, you being so transparent about those things. So, Kurt, let's move it. Let's pull the camera back a little more.
Okay, David, I do want to cover IPL 4 for just a little bit, and talk about, I guess, the good and some, maybe even some of the bads. Mainly, I just want to ask you, right off the bat, what did you guys learn from the event? Because in the end, we can pretend what we've learned and what you guys should do better and what you guys should do, different. But in the end, it doesn't matter if you didn't learn it. So what did you guys learn to do better or different for IPL 5?
So the biggest statement that we did are two things. One is basically the traffic, right? So we published it on a press release, 346,000 concurrent viewers, 6 million of content, hours of content watched, 3 million unique visitors through the span of 3 days. That's just astronomical numbers, right? When you look at any event. So that definitely sent a strong signal that we're doing certain things right. We could have done it better. And we're really appreciative of the fact that we have a great partner in GSL to help us jointly produce the event. And we're going to continue to do things like that to really just, have the best of the best involved to basically get the best of the best metrics to continue to help growth of eSport. The other side behind the scene is really just want to offer you some transparency that we're close to break even, on this event. We lost a bundle on IPL 3, so our team and I, did all we can to really cut all costs, and this is why we only had 2 streams. I know we got a lot of complaints. We're going to solve that in IPL 5. We're going to spend a bit more and to have more streams on StarCraft as well as League of Legends, and then really just grow in a way which it will not burn money, right? And also, kudos to my team. A lot of people work 16-hour shifts, including myself. So it took me like 2 weeks to recover after the event. But, is a testament to all of the people, who has a passion to work on the team, to put their heart and souls into the event so that we're near break even. So this is where, we're, extremely satisfied with the financials behind the scene, as well as extremely satisfied with, online numbers and the metrics that has delivered. And also the attendance. We tripled our attendance, from IPL 3 to, 4. It's really about improving from event to event. And also let's actually talk about the bad side, right? So, behind the scenes, we have, Jedi Rob help with the process, as we call it, the postmortem. So people who are familiar with business, is really just an evaluation on what you could do better. And we have like a over 40-page document on what we could do better in IPL 5. And let me just say, like, my team and I are motivated to really just go in and tackle everything. We're not going to get it perfect as part of IPL 5, but our goal is to, address most of those issues. A lot of them is really about the long hours. We made some mistakes. Some of the quality dropped. We had some new people on staff. They're just not used to esports. So we could, communicate it better to them to improve the quality of our product. And those are things that, we're going to address. And we're confident, like with our portfolio as 6 events in the near future, that we're going to increase our quality and as well as our metric from event to event.
That's really good to hear, especially on the metric side. We're going to say something, Kurt?
No, I was just going to introduce you.
I was jumping in, sorry.
Kind of waited for a minute. Gosh, Jerry.
I know, right? No, I wanted to get a sort of feel for a little bit on the IPL 5 front. So obviously a 40-page document. Talk about what you can share about IPL 5. What do we know? What's after that?
So we're negotiating this space right now. So let's talk about the hypothetical scenario, right? So hypothetical scenarios is going to be twice as large, in terms of floor space, twice the attendance, and even more sponsors, more titles. So that's what I'm working towards, and I hope I can deliver for IPL 5. On top of it, we're going to have international involvement. So you'll see press release coming out this week and next week of us partnering with, additional companies in, particular China, as well as outside of China to, get more local qualifiers. So people who cannot afford to fly to Las Vegas has a chance to fly in Las Vegas and compete, for national pride. And we really just want to, provide that opportunity to, people who had not had the privilege to be in the spotlight to, and then I want more stories like Stefano and Scarlett, and also Illusion, of IPL 4, and then really do a better job covering the, the dark horses and how they do in this extremely competitive circuit, and just really, make sure that they get better coverage in as part as IPL 5.
Another
Jason,
question.
I know you wanted to speak up. Sorry, Jason. I was going to say something else, but no, you go, Jason.
When I have a chance to butt in, I'm going to, because it's so few and far between.
I agree.
One of the things that we got a little bit of a question about on Reddit, and we have received a couple of tweets, was, since we're talking about IPL 4 and moving towards IPL 5, I know you can't disclose venue, but we had a couple people asking. There were a couple League of Legends players that ended up being, I guess the word is, not wanted back.
He had to go there. He had to go there.
I'm sorry.
Fun,
they had a little bit of fun that they shouldn't have had,
Yes.
and is there going to be any concern for these players being brought back for other events? I mean, that venue was okay, go ahead.
No, I think this is where I think they may not be able to stay at the property, but there's plenty of places to stay in Las Vegas. That's one of the beauty of, having a large town like that, which is designed for entertainment. So there's plenty of other spaces to, to stay. And then, IPL 5 could be held outside of Las Vegas. So that possibility is still there, and we're having, additional discussions with interested parties, and I'm not going to rule that out, what we want is really like a great space in which we achieved as part of IPL 4, great venue, people enjoy it and have fun at there. And I think we achieve all of that, and we really want to, do it better. So that's really the focus for IPL 5, is looking at IPL 4 and asking a question, gosh, what can we do better and improve upon that?
Cool.
For those who might be looking for a window of when IPL 5 might happen, what should they look toward?
expect late summer. To be frank, the current date that I'm offered, by the venue is collides with some major events for esports, and this is why we're going back and asking for a date change, or else we could have announced it already. And it's really hard because honestly, right now in the calendar, any time that looks good, basically there's an esport event. It's going to collide with somebody. So it's so we're looking for possibility to basically rework the date. If it's not, then we'll announce it with a collision. So we're trying to do the best we can to minimize it. And honestly, that's one of the challenges for esport today is that it's so hard to pick a date that's good for everybody, and there's none of it. And that's why we're actually trying to focus on building out our 2013 calendar as well, so that we'll be announcing some dates there in advance, just so that people will know what our date's going to be, and that we can work together to avoid conflict.
That's really good to hear. I mean, I think that is a challenge. Since we're having the camera pulled back, I want to talk about the broader esports scene. And
Jerry, before we move on real quick, buddy, can I ask one more question about IPL4?
Yeah, go ahead.
David, I want to ask one little question about IPL4, and that's a relationship to the open bracket. The open bracket was a slaughterhouse. It was a bloodbath, but it was also very interesting, and that's the thing that I think people probably enjoyed about it the most, is the fact that they liked it even more than pool play. I really think. I mean, it was really something that was, they were a little sporadic on the matches, which I'm sure you guys are aware of. But the thing is everybody was trying to flock to that all the time. My main question about the open bracket at IPL4 was the participation of the massive amount of Koreans, like the massive amount. Do you think there might have been a little too much? Both in Koreans and players there, and maybe not balanced out. But even to me, an even more important question is how many matches were played on that day. I mean, there was a massive amount of matches played that day. It was like a 13-hour day for some players.
So we're if we haven't already, we have worked out a new tournament system that basically. I think one of the biggest complaints was like, hey, there's all these great games. I can't tune in on the one I want to watch. So we have a new system devised. And also this is why we're actually bringing in community casters. We're trying them out on our open qualifier. So they're going to be at the event covering more streams, manning more streams for us. So that we want to cover all of the games, so including the brackets. And I personally find the pool play kind of boring. It's designed to have famous player play against famous players. So, we're going to move away from that system. So you'll see that in our
Yeah, all right.
So that's a bold move, but, I always point to like March Madness is my favorite tournament. You got your 64 teams, but you want to give like the dark horses the opportunity to basically upset some of the top seeds, right? That's a story of the tournament. So we're going to implement some spirit of that, into the competition. You'll see that in our announcement, and then I'd love to basically get feedback on that. And then we really want to hear from the community to see if we're going the right direction or not. So it's going to be a big move, it's going to be a bold move, and I hope that people like it.
Moving away from pool play. Jerry, did you just hear that?
I did.
My mind has been blown. People nowadays, you would think pool play is 100% necessity. So I think you're right. It's a bold move. I hope it works out, and I can't wait.
Yeah. So honestly, going back to the number of Koreans, what we want to do is offer some diversity, and this is why we're going to run some local qualifiers, in the States, in Europe, as well as in Asia, to bring more local players. And what we want to do, too, is to offer them travel. So I talked to Jason Lake, and kudos to him. He explained it to me. Odie also told me the same thing, from Dignitas, that, what the players want is just like the leagues, not to increase the prize pool, but really offer more players like a travel package so they can be at the competition and remove the burden off of the team. So that's something that we're going to do more of. And
I think that was fairly biased, Jason and Odie. It's like, yeah,
I agree with them though.
They don't want more money. They just want to take burden off their teams. That sounds like something I would say.
But then if a couple of team managers tell me the same thing, right? It's actually reality for esports, right? Yeah. So if I have dollars which I can funnel to fly the players in instead of increasing the prize pool, I'll do that, and I listened to them. I heard them loud and clear. I want more players there. I want more people to watch, simplified tournament system, just really just focus on the best players competing, So going back to this, going back to, answering the question, yeah, we're going to offer more diversity. I'm not going to exclude anybody, so if a Korean player flew to, say, if we have a, qualifier in, say, Dallas, they won at Dallas, I'm not going to exclude that. It just shows like these guys really want to be in our tournament. We basically offer some local, talent to participate, and if they win, great. If not, made the best talent win our tournament, right? So, I emphasize that, being an open system, but then we really want to engineer ways, especially for people who cannot afford to get there, people even don't have teams, to really be at our event. We really want to, help them get there.
Amen. All right, Jerry, that's it, buddy. You can go ahead and go on with the backstory.
Well, I mean, it does bring up a good point, and that is sort of this, with all these events and all these spaces, I want to propose scenarios to you that some would argue would be horrible. Many might argue would be horrible. The relationship between leagues, organizations, and players. Is it advantageous at some point for leagues to start to look at different models where they have a more direct relationship with players? Because at the end of the day, as much as we love our EGs and our complexities and all the organizations, as a stronger relationship between players and leagues get formed where leagues are investing a great amount of money in players, does that change the dynamic? Where do you see that headed, especially in light of all these leagues? If one league were to start to be able to have a much more professional relationship with players as far as financing them, giving them pay, things like that, what does that do to the scene? Do you think it's a looming challenge to get everybody to play nice? If somebody all of a sudden pivots and says, we're going to start to see if we can hire these players permanently in some capacity, what does that do to the scene? And I just wanted to get your idea on that potential challenge.
So one of the things I had to say is that I think it's silly for the next few years to do that. I think a closed league with a closed set of players, it's really difficult to finance. And for me, going back to being a part of IGN, I want to make sure that we have a cash flow positive business versus a cash flow negative business, right? So I just don't think I will be able to afford that. If we talk about pivots, it's not going to be a pivot for the IPL. The IPL, angle is going to be continue to fund, the amateur scenes, if we get richer, continue to fund people's dreams, and actually pay out people with lower skill caliber so that, they will be able to pursue the dream and get better. And that's going to be the way that we're going to, spend our money, is really to, fuel the growth of the fan base, fuel the growth of the competitive scene, getting more players to basically be at tournaments. And that's what we're going to be about. I personally love the new stories. I love the existing players as much as the new stories, but that's refreshing for me. Like Scarlett, nobody knew about her. And then, she became a sensation after IPL 4. And the key here is that I'm here to really tell more of those stories. And that's really where my passion lies. And I'm going to spend my time there.
That's a noble pursuit, and one I think is going to be happy for a lot of inspiring players.
It's like Jerry, it's like David did research on everything that I like before he came onto the show.
Awesome. And before the show, you got to keep a report card on how I'm doing. So I would love to kind of circle back.
A+.
No. I think on the pre-test, it looks like it's looking good. Yeah,
You
but
couldn't even let you get away with no Counter-Strike.
yeah, maybe.
It's highly possible. I might not string you up too much if you you keep talking like you're talking. So,
Yeah. So, and
yeah,
then
go ahead.
again, going back to this, right? We're growing this, yourselves included. You guys are all passionate and you're donating your time to esports. You guys are all like, guys with careers and, that's what it takes is a lot of people think alike. We all work toward that common cause and make sure that the ecosystem can stand the test of time, right? So right now there's a gold rush and, it is definitely encouraging what we see. But then if people get greedy and all of a sudden become monopolistic, it's going to hurt the scene because I think it's still too fragile. That's why I say that it's years out that I'm even going to consider that.
Very fair, and I think very true. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So a little bit about how your life has changed.
Mm-hmm.
You started out as an engineer. You took this experiment, this passion, and wow, there you are. You're stuck now. You are carrying this forward, and I mean stuck in a good way. What's different? What is life for you like now compared to maybe where it was even a year ago?
So that's a really good question. So a year back, I had nothing to lose, right? So this is a concept. If it didn't work, you just say, hey, David was an engineer. He's not a businessman. So of course, his idea is bound to fail, right? So now, because the stakes are getting higher, it's an official part of the business. So I feel like a lot of pressure, to deliver. But at the same time, it's good pressure, right? So, I have a competitive juice in me. That's why, I'm drawn to StarCraft last year, and that's why we founded the business. And right now, it's a good pressure of like getting good people into the organization, continue the growth, getting people smarter than me. I think Kurt or whoever else on this cast actually mentioned it. It's actually exactly this thing that I'm trying to get. Like Rob is smarter than me. So that's why we got Rob in here, right? We got to get continually like more people, fresh blood, expand carefully with the right people, right? So one of the things I speak about is that, I don't want to add additional suits onto my organization. That's something that, is special. Even like, people who are ranked at the top, with like, even lofty titles, everybody roll up their sleeves and then everybody is not too good to, to do any tasks that's really required for us to be successful. For example, like, at South by Southwest, Errol did most of the driving. He's my right-hand man, in a traditional company, he will be a COO. He did most of the driving of the players to, the venue just because we try to hit a particular budget, and that was save a couple $100. And he drove for like 2 straight days to make that happen. I volunteered and did a little bit of driving myself, a couple of trips here and there, but then, he did the majority of it. But that's the type of people I want. And that's the type of people that we will add to help continue to grow the scene. And guys who are selfless, guys who are passionate, guys who are in it to really just, because they enjoy the content, not because they want the big paycheck at the end of the day.
No, the work of it, the love of the labor.
Yep, the love of the labor is what counts.
And what we were talking about there is I actually, and I have to mention this because I promised myself I would mention it at some point in time in the cast. I read a book this week called Do More Faster. There was actually a book that was referenced to me by Jason Tugman, which I know that you probably know him very well.
Yes.
And it had a whole entire chapter in there about how you need to hire people smarter than you. And you would think that's fairly common sense, but it was just very interesting to me. And that's something that I think IPL has done a really amazing job at. You guys have hired people that, like you said, they're not suits. You're not hiring people like CGS did in the sense that, you've got maybe one advisor like they did with Craig Levine, and they've got, 30 people from DirecTV like Andy Reif and, random people that ran a volleyball tournament and shit like that. You guys have done an amazing job. Amazing. And that's really true. That's sad but true. But you guys have done an amazing job with that. Not like I said, my only question, with that is where's where you guys are going to progress into next, which I think you've probably already answered more about, where you guys are going to progress as far as your employers or your employees and stuff like that.
So my focus is building up the business side of it. So I am an engineer. So my weakness is on the finance side, sales side, business development side. So we're going to augment the team with those set of skills. So we have proven a model. Now it's time to monetize it. And the reason why we monetize is that, I'll be able to afford to do more things, right? So people on my team don't have to work the 16-hour shift because, it really, breaks my heart when I hear somebody say that, working at IPL, this is, again, I'll share this with you just so that you understand what it's like behind the scene, right? Working at IPL is like, slave labor. We work these long hours, we don't get any rest and breaks. And there are people who do not want to work at an IPL event in the future. That breaks my heart, right? So, and then there's, guys, the players, the team managers, I talk to them. It also breaks my heart. Like, I can't do more to help them. I talked to Stefano, who's one of the best players, one of the bright spots. And then if he comes to me and say, hey, I'm going to go back to med school because I'm not sure if I can have a career out of esport, that really shows me like, it's still not very healthy. We got to do more for him and Jason Lake, Odie, Michael Dell, then it's really like, there's so much more that we need to do. And this really means that, we got to bring some really big guns in to help us, get the big dollar sponsorship. Let's talk about NFL dollars, right? Pepsi, what is it? 19 million or whatever crazy amount that they got, for a 10-year deal with Pepsi. That's the type of dollars that will continue, completely transform this landscape and allow people to really just pursue the passion and be able to be fairly compensated, for their work.
I think that a lot of the executives at those kind of companies, I think it's fair that the market isn't there yet, meaning we're not quite large enough. And it's like the catch-22 in anything. If we had more money, we could expand. We don't have more money because we're not large enough. But I sense breaks are coming. There's certainly, I think, an alignment. With IGN and IPL, you have this alignment. With now GameSpot and CBS Interactive and MLG, you have this alignment. So you start to have much more legitimate dollar amounts and partnerships and that sort of thing in the space that drives it. And I wanted to sort of get a feel for the changing role of IGN in relationship to what IPL is now outside of the dollar amount. What, if I was someone, let's say a casual gamer who was looking at IGN, what could they expect to see change over the next several months that's going to sort of reflect the new status of the IPL as part of IGN?
So during the events, we will promote it harder. We also will be creating like these landing pages that drive traffic to particular games and game franchises and really just push a lot of traffic for the particular titles. And those pages will be evergreen, meaning like we'll have fresh esports content on there all the time. So that basically creates, longevity that game publishers need to really fully monetize their title. So those are the type of innovation you'll see over the next several months, and we'll be releasing those. And then, just talking about IGN, right? So, I'm doing my part to affect the esports world, from, my vantage point. We get close to 70 million monthly unique visitors on our sites, right? So that's a huge number, right? So if I were able to convert to say 1% of that into esport lover, and I'm working, heavily with all of the different counterparts, at IGN. And if that thing happens, my God, that's 7 million people that would love esports, live and die with esports, every month just coming back and using our content. That's huge, right? So if we just dream a little bit and say, hey, let's up it a little bit, let's actually talk about, 10%. Actually, I did the math wrong. It's actually 10% there. 10% is 7 million. So, but then, yeah. But then, that's, at 10%, right? So that's the stuff that, it's going to basically move the needle, right? And then this is where all of us in our jobs, and a lot of people ask me, say, hey, I want to quit my job and work on eSport. That's my best way of growing the scene. I told them, no, you guys are wrong. To emphasize that point, the right thing to do is to be extremely successful in your career. So Make yourself the CEO of a big corporation or CMO of a big corporation and allocate the dollars there. That's the best way to grow the scene. And then if you can't do that, tell your friend and tell your friend's friend, right? And then basically pass on the word. And then just converting a lot of fans, do your part, right? Convert like a fan a day. And then all of a sudden you see is that, we have, millions of different new fans that basically come in and just really, help us grow the scene.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about as far as conversion is something that I think is really important. One of the faults I've always found in the way that the esports community, and I think it's better to call it a community than an industry, I think they're still very insular in a way.
Yes.
And, so to me, it's part of my odd strategy is always to sort of directly upset someone inside the esports community, just so that I can sort of watch the fireworks unfold. And then more so because, honestly, the people inside the esports community are not the people I'm interested in pleasing. I keep shining that lens to that giant sea that you're talking about, and I keep thinking, we can all jump on Team Liquid and be worried if the Team Liquid community hates us, or we can all jump on the League of Legends community and be worried about the League of Legends community. I boldly give them both sort of the middle finger and make sure that there's no chance they're going to like me, while I cast my eye out there and go, well, how am I going to get that person and that person and that person involved in esports? How am I going to change that mother's opinion that gaming is bad for her child? How am I going to change that dad's concern that his son is gaining weight because he's playing video games all the time? Those, to me, are the real obstacles to Pepsi and Coca-Cola, right? Who already walk a very delicate line with their branding and sugary drinks and all the other fire they get. Same thing, just something in the fast food industry, McDonald's and those, right? And then I've got some kid on Team Liquid, and someone will come to me and, they'll be like, oh, Organization X posted this, and here's this big drama. Like, that's so not even on my radar screen. I don't even care. Like, and I know it's dismissive, but hey, there are plenty of people who cater to that community, right? There are plenty of people who take care of the Team Liquid community, who take care of the League of Legends community. Those communities are having their needs met, and thankfully their games and developers and the synergy around that are being met. There are great League of Legends teams, players, content out there that are working. There are great StarCraft events and content out there. But then there's this big, giant other audience that I don't think anyone's really sort of doing the data hunting, doing the data driving, doing the what are they as a demographic. If I ask the average esport person, well, what do you think it's going to take to grow esports? Honestly, you would think that a few tweets is going to fix the whole problem. We need to tweet more. We need to create more content, more, as if we shotgun saturate it, and all of a sudden everyone's going to be interested. And I still think we fail to understand some of those cultural hurdles that the general greater gaming community has in regards to esports. And by being on the edge of it sometimes and throwing stones at it, I also start to get a better feel, because someone will come out from behind that going, Lord Jareth, I really like the fact that you say what you say, and here's another problem I have, or here's another issue I have with esports. And in those cases, that gives me the sort of at least anecdotal data that I can say, we really are going to need to meet that challenge. And I think no matter what we do, I can even think of teams out there who have attempted to sign players who are under the age of 18 and met the parent who said, whatever your vision of esports is, my child is not going to participate in that vision. And we all lose. We lose a great player. We lose that player's fan base. That player loses an opportunity to meet their dreams at the level they may have wanted to. And we still have those hurdles. And I guess my question, and this is a question that I also want to pose to MLG and GameSpot, but you're on first. So what can IGN do? Because you actually are a portal to a lot of those other gamers. What do you and you may not have thought about it yet, so forgive me for just throwing this at you. Right. But what do you think would help? What do you think would help reach out to that audience? Is it content geared at them? Is it Mythbusters for bad video game rumors? What are the kind of things that you think could help?
Yeah, so a couple of things, you hit the nail right on the head. So we're actually doing some documentary behind the scenes and releasing them about pro gaming, just to really just help to change the public's perception of pro gamers as losers, as really like winning athletes, right? So they're about to release on YouTube, and these are small things that we're doing. We're basically exposing it to the greater IGN audience. It just really just get the word out there. And then it really, it is about us letting the parents know that, I am a very progressive parent. Like my son, I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. I use game as an educational tool. I don't use a traditional, like the hardbound, storybooks to teach them how to read. I actually taught them how to read using games and as well as interactive storybooks on an iPad. And that's actually my primary teaching device. And I think parents need to, be more educated on like, the world has evolved. Kids, in order for them to survive, 97% of their friends play games. If you basically want them to be a loser or a loner, you basically keep them away. And what will happen is that they will get rebellious. They want to play games even more, when they grow up to be teenagers, right? So the right way to educate them is really just like self-control, moderation, and have them make the right decision. Basically a balance between fun, play, imagination. Like my son plays 2 hours or 3 hours of Minecraft per day. And then that's his way of playing Lego. And he's so creative with it. He paints with it. He, builds like arenas. He'll basically type, descriptive terms on there. He learned more vocabulary there because he needs to search on YouTube to find out tips. I taught him how to do that. And now he's self-sufficient on finding out how to build the next cool building. That's the stuff like parents need to do to educate their son. And then it's really about us, as, leaders, industry leaders and parents and, thought leaders to get the word out, and it just really, change people's perception. My feeling is that, if you're good at something, you'll win at it, right? And then if you're really good at video games and 97% of your peers play it because you're a kid, you are a stud, and then, it's up to the parents being educated on the fact that this kid has potential and then they actually can grow a career out of it. And it's our job to basically change that perception.
Yeah, I think you're probably spot on. I recently was giving a presentation on employee engagement, and I borrowed the After Hours League from the tech industry where they play StarCraft,
exactly.
and the one that Amazon just recently did. And, it was a fairly large audience for a webinar. We had about 140 people. And I was surprised how many questions I got about using video games as an engagement tool. And I think, the example I sort of use is I say, there are two complaints in the engagement arena, in the employee resource group arena. For those who don't know what an employee resource group is, in a lot of large companies, there are groups that form that are kind of after-hour activities. They could be employee resource groups around religion, around fitness, around various issues. And some companies, Qualcomm, Amazon, eBay, they have employee resource groups around StarCraft, and they have those compete in the After Hours Gaming League. And in sort of explaining esports as an engagement tool, one, and I've used this in 2 lectures, honestly. That was the one where I had the largest crowd. The other one was one on looking at employee diversity, and someone said, well, there are plenty of women, there are plenty of employee resource groups and ideas for women, but I don't think that men have enough employee resource groups. And I said, well, I bet a lot of your young men play video games. Have you looked at video games? And it was like, well, what do you mean? And then I sort of, again, looked at the After Hours Gaming League, and I said, well, here's what the tech industry is doing that you could adopt in and this is in the auto industry, what you're doing in the auto industry, right? And all of a sudden, that person takes that back to the company. And you hope by you slowly planting those seeds, you get more and more of those organizations to start to take a more serious look at what we're doing. And I think this is the challenge, is that, we also have to be real careful that there are going to be, and I'm really glad you brought up the example that you did. If you can't support esports, become a chief marketing officer, become the president of a company and invest money in esports. That is a great idea. You know what worries me and why I try to preach sort of good behavior, be really nice, is because I'm really worried about that kid who was picked on the whole time he was in video games. And when he becomes an adult and he becomes a chief marketing officer and he hears the term esports, he thinks about all those bad-mouthed, awful little kids and go, I would never want my kid in that environment. So, and let me, don't want to sort of stand on the soapbox any longer than I need to, but there are players that need to go, right? And not for the reasons that, I am a moralist, but from the reasons that the impact to a fragile industry is something that I think we need to do a better job policing and being aggressive about. Because if a lot of young people who get exposed to esports don't feel they can be a part of it and they're excluded, they have just as much possibility to grow into an adult who perpetuates a sort of negative stereotype and works against what we're trying to do versus working, to the best benefit of it.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. And then it's really about us giving talks. Like meetups is a great, opportunity to do so. That's why, I try to make myself available for, sessions like these to basically have podcasts to talk to your audience. It's really about, opening people's mind, right? Looking at the big picture and really try to, shift people's thinking, because everybody pulls the same direction, even with a small community that esports is today. It's going to have the rapid growth it's already experiencing, and then it's also going to be continuous growth, which is more interesting. And then also the perception, like people who play video games, this is the genre this is an era that I grew up, are losers, right? And this is why I work at IGN. I had a very successful career in tech. Prior to coming to IGN, I chose IGN because I enjoy video games. And when I talked to my, the guys who I knew, and then they asked me, why IGN? Why not a startup and make your $1 million? I said, guys, it's more important for me to have fun right now. I want to do something I enjoy, and I'll be probably more successful at it. And I'm absolutely right. And I'm having the time of my life. I'm doing my part to basically preach the gospel. But then the key here is that everybody who gets touched by this, right? Think about your life experiences, reflect on it, and really just trying to bring the positivity out, and really just trying to, get other people to believe, and then, and just have this, positivity propagate.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to see more of that, and hopefully we're going to work all better together so that we, can police ourselves, but more so, like I said, we live with each other. We kind of are in the same space, so yes. We all know one another. And I think it's really more and more we've got to get that lens to sort of shift and look outward and say, how do we get those other gamers to be involved? How do we get them interested? Because so many of them are playing, and we are social creatures. Thankfully, DNA is on our side. We want to be social in some capacity with people, feel like we fit in. Now, how does esports borrow the best social practices from sports off the field? And I want to sort of lead back to something you said earlier about your vision of an esports event and entertainment. And there are a lot of examples. Anybody who's been to an MLG event or IEM or IPL or DreamHack got slightly different flavors. And I want to get your perspective on what you think some of them do well, and where you see the vision of what IPL could do to deliver even better, or a specific kind of entertainment.
Yeah, so, I expressed this a couple of times, at our events, so I want to make sure people have choices at the venue and they have fun, right? They have a blast. And one of the best compliments I got at IPL4 was a fan telling me that $25, even though I sat in the audience for just 2 hours, which is really short time, right, for an esports audience, I think it's, the best $25 I spent. That's the thing that, I'm going to continue to work on, is really perfecting that experience. People can come in, they feel like this is a affordable form of entertainment. It's something that they could totally attach themselves into, and then continue to spread the good words, and then really try to grow the scene. So, I don't want to critique other events, and I think this is where, people will have their preferences. For me, I really like it, like casinos. I just bring back good times when I was young. I loved gambling back in the past before I was married, and now I'm married. I love watching people gamble, watch people playing eSport, and it really just it's just really about creating an environment where you have good food, great other option alternative to just esports, and it really just so that people don't get burned out on just having the same thing, for 3 days. And so, so that's my vision, and I hope that other people share that.
I'm going to turn this over to you, Kirk. Go ahead.
So, I think I definitely agree with the way that you guys are going, and I absolutely love, and I want to speak on this for just a second, I absolutely love some of the content that you guys are producing. A lot of people don't realize, and you've mentioned this before, you've mentioned this oversaturation of content. In various interviews, the one you did with Rakaka, I think, is the one the Team Liquid one, I think, is actually the one where you mentioned the stuff about the over content, and I couldn't agree more. A lot of people really miss your guys' amazing content that you put on. For instance, like this IPL Yield Map tournament.
Yep.
Like that's hilarious. That's something unique, something that very few people do, and because of this oversaturation of content, it's very hard to see. It's hard to see the gems through the cloud and the fog, sometimes. How do you guys really, and I want to hit another question after this, but how do you guys plan on really shining your light a whole lot brighter than everyone else's in order to show off some of this content that you're producing daily?
Yeah, so this is where you have to have quality content every day. So we picked and this is where, we'll just continue to innovate it. So for us to shine brighter, that means that we have to last longer than everybody else, right? So hopefully that's not the case. I hope that there's a lot of people who can, participate in a marathon with us. But I'm prepared to run this marathon for like 5, 10 years, 20 years if it takes so, and just really, live out and just produce high quality that people can always depend on. And each day people can tune in at the same place and they can watch the content and they can depend on our brand. So that's really the vision. And this is why I said that, when we pick titles to add to the circuit, it's a hard decision. It's really a heavy commitment that we had to make. So, and then going back to the events, this is why we believe in doing the state-of-the-art, most highest quality events. That's why we pick the venue we do. We spend the level of money we do, to produce our events, and we want to continue to do that. And my plan is to, and then remember I said that in previous interviews, I talked about I'm going to be around for 5 years. You're going to see plenty of me. Hopefully. So, unless I do a crappy job at IGN, I hope with everybody's support, I can still be here 5 years from now. It's really about the consistency, right? So I don't spend a lot of money. We have the community guys help us build the content. So we're always, listening from the ground floor, and people come up with ideas. And then my hope is that there are a couple of lights that are equally bright. And then basically, a lot of the other content, which is basically not innovating and gets old, they're going to wash themselves out, over time. They're just not going to be able to compete over the long haul.
Gotcha. You mentioned the other lights, and I think we would be miss if we did mention some of the other lights. Outside of this community, I got to mention this real quick. Outside of this community, if you came in completely from the outsider's perspective, you would realize that there is this storm a brewing. That at least that's the way it looks from the outside. Once again, I'm not saying that's the way it is. That's the way it is in reality. But from the outside, this is really turning into a crazy rivalry. You had this. But I'm talking MLG IPL now. All right. You had this friction originally for quite some time. You guys are owned by IGN, and now all of a sudden CBS and GameSpot come in and partner with MLG. Like that's that would be like that's like Wile E. Coyote versus the Roadrunner there.
Well, but I was going to throw something out there. I don't know. I guess maybe because I'm an eternal optimist, I think it's good. I think it's good that these people are being pulled into it.
I'm not saying it's bad by any means, but it's interesting to say the least, and we don't know where it's going to go. that's really my overall question is, because of this MLG with GameSpot and CBS, and you guys with with IGN and I guess what would be Fox, right? I mean, technically
yes.
speaking. Is there still opportunities for partnership? I know it's hard, especially with the friction of the past. But is there any kind of light at the tunnel there?
Yeah, well, I think that looking at the big picture, I think the first thing we had to avoid is collision of dates. And this is why I said I had to do a better job. And then because of my budget constraint, I only can do an event at a time. Now I have to go ahead to do multiple events. We're going to go out there, procure the venue way ahead of time, going to announce our dates way ahead of time so people can, work with us to plan around it. The thing about the partnership, it's really about philosophies, right? So there are certain people that share the same philosophy. When you have sit down, have a nice dinner with them, you just feel like, hey, this is a cool guy. I just want to work with them. Up to this point, I haven't felt that with MLG, and then it's just not to bar that I will have that feeling in the future. The way I see it is that, rivalry, not rivalry. The rivalry, people can talk about it, But, I'm just really diligent about doing my work, like what I told you, what we're doing. It's a big vision. It's a lot of work. And frankly, I'm not going to spend a lot of energy on counting score, right? At the end of the day, it's about who emerges 5 years from now, right? And that's really where, I'm driving myself to basically, be the best I can be emerging out of that tunnel 5 years from now, right? And then also, if you look at the philosophy from our league, we don't sabotage anybody else, right? We just go in, we just do our event, when other people have their event, and we try to be very low key, respectful of what they're doing. And we don't want to basically have like a kind of like a civil war basically by, throwing sling mud at each other. I think it's silly. It's a waste of time. It's not a good spend of, good use of energy. At the end of the day, I'd rather spend my time on really just improving my metrics and really improving my fan experience and really just build, tangible improvements into the product every day. So that's what I'm about. And frankly, there are people who are similar minded who I will, partner with, and it just natural affinity of people liking to work with each other. And like GSL is a great example of that. We're going to continue to work with them. Mr. Che and I, develop a friendship. We talk on almost a weekly basis. And that's what's going to naturally emerge. And then all of the guys who want to build a lot of conspiracy theory and drama and just make things more interesting, go ahead, talk about it, make it fun and make it even, more spicy. We need more of that. Somebody poached this person and really hurt MLG, or somebody poached this person from IPL and then went to MLG. It's, IPL is screwed, Totally up for that.
David Ting put on a mustache and snuck into MLG Anaheim just so he could play.
I'm just going to start a T-shirt, eSports T-shirt that says, "I got your fucking spice."
Yeah,
I got your spice.
It's good stuff, That I tell my team that's good stuff,
I've got a great idea here. Great idea. You know how there's that Sundance shirt that says, I get it. We should have just a picture of David Ting on a shirt. Underneath it'll just say spicy. Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah. You guys should sell it. I'd grant you that, and I would endorse it.
Perfect. Yeah. So I do have one more question about that, David, and that's once again I apologize because I know you probably get these questions a lot, or people that at least want to ask them and don't. But where exactly did we go wrong? Where, and I don't think this has ever been asked before, because you talked to Adam, and once again, I understand that behind the scenes is a very different picture than what you can always portray publicly. That and on both sides, both with MLG and with you guys. But you guys are usually fairly transparent. And you talk to Adam and stuff like that. We had Adam on the show, I think, 3 weeks ago, and he's usually very open in saying that, I don't necessarily know what went wrong. We always want to help.
I can tell you the answer. I can tell you.
Uh-oh.
So this is my conspiracy theory. So I'm going to make things spicy.
Oh, shit. Hold on. Tweet now. Spice incoming.
Okay, so what we went wrong is that IPL is part of the U.S. market. What we went wrong is also that we're not part of the MLG circuit, and we basically went in and did our own thing because I believe in a slightly different version. It also slight small protocol nuances, right? So Sundance and I could just meet, shake hands, make up. At the end of the day, we're in the same market. We're actually vying for the same sponsorship dollars. So if you look at it, it is really, really hard to create, go into traditional industry. Tell me a story. Intel versus AMD, everything else. Is there a rivalry there? Or is it just competition, right? So let's talk about Intel versus AMD because AMD is our sponsor, right? So I'm going to talk up AMD's case, right? So, we're like AMD. We enter it, we don't have that much funding. We basically were like an experiment. Like what I said, when I first started, there was no funding. And we now got funded, right? So I don't have the aspiration to own it all. So I come into it and say, hey, I'm just going to do it for 5 years. Let's look at it, how big this thing could be for 5 years from now. But, at the end of the day, again, keeping it spicy, maybe something we're doing is right. Because honestly, if MLG is paying attention to what we're doing at IPL, then we're doing something right? We may be threatening something that they are doing in the marketplace. Maybe it's our sales team. Maybe it's IGN, the I starting, the I from the IPL that's really, threatening them. And then I think the CBS deal is great because it balances things, right? So, and then also, from a consumer standpoint, what you want is actually something, a sort of a balance, like Intel versus AMD. Let's go back to that example again. Without AMD there, do you think Intel will innovate as quickly? No. And I think it's always good to have multiple choices. I'm actually happy there's Android. I went out and bought the Google devices because I think they're inferior, they suck. But at the same time, I want to support them. Because I wanted to, make sure that Google at least had
those are fighting words. I want you to know that.
Those are fighting words. I've got my Galaxy Nexus here.
I don't know my Samsung Galaxy S2.
Yeah.
So I wanted to I want to have a secondary choice there, right? Just because I don't want. Apple makes a great device. I use an iPad 99% of the time and use my Samsung Tab 1% of the time. But then at the end of the day, I want to support those products because I feel like there needs to be competition to continue innovation, right? So going back to this, I think what went wrong was basically the Intel AMD story, the Apple Google story, right? It's just there's competition, and that's what's uncomfortable, right? So, MLG feels like they spent the time. They got the marketplace because they spent a lot of long, hard years to carve out a marketplace. And I credit them for that. They're still the number one company when it comes to esports. And, when I look at esports, when people say, who's the biggest organization, I say MLG. They raise the most money and they have the biggest audience in terms of attendance. But then the story with IPL is growth, right? And then this intimidates people who has a number one position. And the growth story is that, we doubled event to event, over the last year in terms of every metric, and I see that we continue going to double that. And then, and lo and behold, I didn't intend to do this. IPL, is the biggest event announced outside of Korea, metric wise. So we went out and did a press release and it's not disputed. So the key here is that, that's what went wrong. And honestly, I think that if people have a little bit of business savvy, they will say that, hey, it's just natural competition. It's a natural evolution of a capitalism in a marketplace. Yeah. And then what went wrong, esports always talk about, this peaceful resolution when we go in, fly into the Geneva Convention, and we basically sign a
beer gate.
See, I just was going to throw this out there. I think you're right, David, because I am really always been one about peace and getting along with people. That's usually my front and center strength is to not upset anyone. I don't like to piss anybody off. If DJ Wheat says something bad about me, I'm in tears for. You don't know how crushed I get, right?
Second, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
When he refers to us as the other show, I think, oh, it's gotta hurt, doesn't it? Gotta hurt. It's gotta hurt,
But but I have something really quickly on this, and I want to comment really quickly, and then I've got one final question, and I think we're going to take one or two community questions, and I think we're done. But I want to comment really quickly that people, and I don't mean to shit on MLG by any means. I love MLG to death. I'm not shitting on them when I say this, but that being said, people you need to realize it is a business, and a lot of people, like you said, want to change everything to an immediate conspiracy theory when it's rather, like you said, just natural competition. It is, and they point to the fact that well, that doesn't make any sense when MLG partners with tons of other tournaments. But name another bigger tournament in the U.S. It's very easy for them to compete to partner with DreamHack or to partner with GSL. Not so easy when it's someone that's vying for your exact same sponsorship hours, talking to the exact same people that you are.
That's exactly it.
Stuff like that. So
I want to throw something out there. This is quick education, and David, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. One of the reasons I said that I'm optimistic is because of what this is all about, right? Good, healthy competition.
Yes.
There should be healthy rivalry, but each one should drive the other one to innovate. I have way deeper relationships with MLG than I do with IPL because really I only know Jedi Rob and obviously have met you a few times and spoken with you, David. Mm-hmm. So maybe if I were to have a bias, it would be the years of being around MLG. Absolutely. But as a smart esports fan, we always want this alignment. I think you're Intel, AMD, and let's go down the list. Before banks got involved in the way they are today, there was a MasterCard versus Visa at one time. There is a Coke versus Pepsi. If you look at almost any brand, there is a competitor. To Kleenex, there's Puffs. To Gillette, there's Schick. To Energizer, it goes on and on.
Right.
So any business will look at a market and say, how can we get some part of that market share, right? And this is the fighting stage of it, right? Once this is an industry, once it's a real industry, then it'll change a little bit. There'll be a little bit, once this settles out, and these are examples, I'm not predicting, but let's say it's 55% MLG and 45% or 40% IGN, and then there's another small player in the field, right? We saw this in cell phones, right? Before it was just AT&T versus Verizon, there were a lot of other players. And there may be other players that come up that get gobbled up or get absorbed into these larger organizations. We have a lot yet to happen, right? We're still at that beginning stage. And my whole thought on this is, we, meaning those who are in the esports community and those who are lucky enough to have a voice and are passionate about it and speak about it, should be happy that there is healthy competition, right. Should be happy that there is someone to drive innovation. And we should ignore whatever back and forth happened between the leagues, and we should be focused on quality. Right. I mean, I think, again, as I said earlier, I could care less if IPL steals 20 more fans or MLG gets 20 fans from IGN. I care that both of you each grow. Both of you look outward and pull other new people into the esports scene. We all win. There's plenty of money to be made if this grows. Plenty of money. Plenty of space. And yes, right now in the early days, there is going to be competition. So it's the same way I feel about when DJ Wheat wouldn't talk about our show, right? As this grows, there's going to be more than just Live on 3 and the losers bracket and whatever else is out there. More professional mainstream media will start to cover it. And the major networks, if we're lucky, we could hope for this, will either acquire these shows, create their own, add a new competitor, bring in another celebrity. We got to be ready for the big world. And I think anybody who says, God, I wish there was just one league, I think that's naive. You don't just want one league, certainly not for a decade to come, right? Yes. It's not good for anyone. You may think of football and you may say, look, football's great. This is not football. That's a bad example. This is technology driven. It's a digital world. We are evolving by the hour. I was sitting down with AT&T's chief learning officer just last week, and the thing that really struck me that was amazing was just a sentence, and it went like this: what we do at AT&T is not for the faint of heart, right? What we do is we change by the hour. The person in the AT&T store tomorrow, all across the world has to be ready to get a new product and be trained and be able to sell and market that product. Those are the people that we want to start to pay attention to esports, and when they do, their involvement will change esports. That's what we have to look forward to, right? Is as more and more of these partnerships gets formed, maybe for 6 months, IGN pulls ahead because of a new partner. MLG catches up. MLG pulls ahead, right? It's the Coke Pepsi thing. Except with real innovation. I would question how much Coke and Pepsi really innovated. They did teach the world about branding and positioning.
But Intel AMD, you could say that.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's a great example. I think you're absolutely spot on, right? AMD may have never won that battle, but we all won from AMD's participation in what has now shifted drastically personal computing. And we would not have the kind of mobile devices we have today if it wasn't for AMD driving technology and challenging Intel. I don't think anyone can disagree with that.
I agree. And then going back to this theme, right? So, if you look at it, you're absolutely right. This is the beginning stages. I think what is important is the competition doesn't, poison the well. I think that, I'm very respectful of what MLG is doing, and I think that, we reciprocate, by being very respectful, just, keeping everything at a quality, just really making sure that the message is clean and clear to the esports community. And then for the record, MLG is in the pole position right now. In the States, right? So, we only have 1 year of history for IPL, so I don't intend to catch up, over the short span. But, my horizon is like 4 to 5 years from now. And then I really want, IPL to be, hopefully a giant by that time, and hopefully share that even bigger esports pie with many players, at that point. And then with our involvement, one of the things I can say is that, video production, I think the quality has gone up. Players, I think the way players are treated, I think has gone up. These are, simple little things that people have to understand that, by having competition, there's a lot of people who benefit from this. And then we have more content, more choices, and it's a great thing. And I hope that continues for a long period to come.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I've got one last question here. My question, I guess, pertains to a little bit of both points. You guys have had a relationship in the past with sponsoring a team. You guys sponsored Frank's team in Rain. I know that that necessarily didn't go all the way as planned, but I do want to know if there's anything in the future that you guys plan to do either for teams specifically, whether it be help them get sponsorships to where they can pick up better players and send them to your events, or whether it be directly sponsor a team or anything like that. Is there anything like that in motion? And the reason I ask that is, like you said, there's so many events. You're looking at, with MLG, with the arenas, you've got 10 events there. It seems like when you add in all those together, and you got IPL, you're talking about you want to do, I think you said 6 events within the year, right? I mean, that's, and then Lord only knows everything else. So it's very, very hard to choose. So are there any other plans to help those teams out?
Yeah, so there are certain things in motion. So we're, we want to focus more on helping teams than to owning teams. So this is where, we're pitching to sponsors. We're going to selectively, add maybe slides into the pitch deck if the demand is there, to basically add options for, our sponsors to sponsor, other teams as well as other leagues. Those are things that we're exploring, as well as Barcraft. So we're really, trying to, open up the discussion and just, presenting options for our sponsors to think through. So it's a wider solution. Not making any traction there yet. So this is where I need additional help and expertise to come in and help my, BD as well as sales team, sales functions, grow. But that's concepts that I'm exploring, right? So I really want to, help to funnel more money through, to esports, and really helping the players and the teams to succeed, be successful.
Fantastic. I completely agree. Jason, I think we're on to you, buddy. You got maybe 2 or 3 community questions, right?
Indeed. Let's head on over to a couple questions from the VVV community in chat. and also the questions we got on Twitter or Reddit earlier today. Let's start out with one from Talon, who's actually in the chat right now. Going back to titles, he's actually a very big fan of Bloodline Champions, and he's asking if you have ever looked into the title, or is there any chance for promotion of it here in the United States, or is that non-existent at this point?
So our focus is, we did consider Bloodline Champion before we picked League of Legends. So last year there was a fairly controversial decision. It was Dota 2, Heroes of New Earth, Bloodline Champion. It's a host of other titles, before we picked League of Legends. So yeah, we picked League of Legends, and we're going to move on to another genre. So unfortunately, we don't have the time to make Bloodline Champion more popular than it is today.
Understandable.
Honest answer.
Yeah, very much so. That actually segues just perfectly into the next question, and I think I already know the answer to this, but I do want to ask since it was asked in chat. Room for both Dota 2 and League of Legends?
Not in the near future. I think our focus is going to be on League of Legends. We're just getting started. And there's so many things that we could do with it to make the tournament be better, the content better. I don't know if you're seeing our latest top 5. We innovated on that, increased the production value there. Mm-hmm. So my philosophy is really funnel the limited set of resource that we have, really set a new bar in anything that we touch. And really, take it to its full potential before we, diversify our attention to something else. One of the things I find in business is that people a lot of the times think that more is better, and that's really the American philosophy. I think that Apple, if you look at Steve Jobs, one of the lessons he taught me is that the biggest decision in life or in your product, in your business, is really deciding what not to do. Is actually the critical decisions that you need to make. So for me, I want to focus on League of Legends, and I'm not going to handle any other MOBA title in the near future until we do that completely right.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. While we're talking about things like League of Legends, that actually segues perfectly into a question that we got over on Reddit earlier today, which is Asian qualifiers for IPL 5. Yes. It says they will be run by Garena, which means that SEA teams will be able to qualify. It's asking, can you confirm this, or will Korean and Chinese teams be able to qualify for IPL 5?
So we're going to run regional qualifiers. So there's actually 2 announcements. So one is Garena, you know that already. So we're going to run a qualifier in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Those are really big, Asian countries with a lot of influence, both from a media perspective as well as leading in thought leaders on eSports. So we're going to partner with them on finding the best players to participate in our tournament, in League of Legends tournament. Mm-hmm. And then also we're partnering with a company called NetEase. It's a very, a lot of the Chinese companies, they all sound the same, but this is one of the top 10 internet properties within China. To basically do League of Legends as well as a StarCraft 2 tournament to pick the best team as well as a player to participate in IPL 5. And as I said, we're constantly looking for additional partners. We are, spreading our love across the world and trying to get people, teams that people haven't seen. I would love to have a Chinese team to come in and win all of League of Legends, just because there's so many people there. And, if you could get a slice of that $3 million pie, I think, anybody will be interested.
Just a quick question. Did you mention which Chinese company?
Yeah, Chinese company is the 2 partners that we have are NetEase and Mars TV.
Gotcha.
So
okay, thanks.
Yeah, so Mars TV owns a couple of TV channels there, and they also, do some streaming on the internet. So we're partnering with them to really just focus on the Chinese market and really leveraging their media to really get the word on esports out. So that's really, I'm Chinese, I can speak the native language. Mm-hmm. So the way I discovered them is I found that they actually inadvertently translated a piece of our content. So we, instead of them having to go do it in a kind of a not sanctioned illegal way, we basically formed a basically official partnership so that they can do it right. Not only doing it right, they also can magnify the size of it and the scope of it, so that it really trying to increase the popularity in China.
Sounds good. 2 more questions from the community, and then we'll wrap this up. We just got a question about more League of Legends. Seems very popular right now in the chat, about the monetization of the MOBA genre. Any thoughts on monetization in regards to in-game transactions, microtransactions? Any plans to do anything with that in the future?
No, I think that we just want Riot to be successful. Like being a good partner there, I want people to buy a lot of skins, champions, just really, help Riot to succeed so that they can continue to support esport. Same thing with Blizzard. We really want to help promote Heart of the Swarm, really want to make sure that they sell a lot of copies and a lot of players to play, StarCraft, with a new expansion pack. So we just really want our partners to be successful, and then we just enjoy it, just being part of the ecosystem.
All right, last question about FPS from the chat. In the chat, would you, if you had a chance to do, let me see if I can get the exact wording here. It was way up. All right, if you had the chance, Call of Duty or Halo, your personal preference, and if Call of Duty, if Black Ops 2, if the opportunity does arise, could it succeed as an esport with what's currently being put into the game?
If I have a personal preference, I would look at the sales figure. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about both franchises are being huge, right? They're behemoths, right? So, the battle of who's going to be the best first-person shooter we'll see in the fall. My bet is on Call of Duty just because there's more, copies sold, and the traffic on IGN is higher for Call of Duty at the current moment. Not mean that Halo 4 is not going to be a huge title, but I'm just talking about from a historical perspective. So if there's any preference, I will actually put it on the Call of Duty side just because of the size on IGN.
Minusing 2 points, David.
No,
I knew I got to get an F somewhere, so this is where it comes.
This one, I don't know how you can bet against.
Subtracting some damn points.
How do you bet against Activision on this one? I mean, even in their videos, it looks like they're trying. In fact, to add to this, talk about Riot really leading the thing here. I think one thing that talked about last week that I think really was a game changer is Riot's new spectator mode that they've put into the League of Legends game that allows you to actually, in my humble opinion, do the quality casting that we're used to in other professional sports. I mean, I don't want to say this because I know I'm going to get flack for it, or maybe that's why I'm going to say this, but I really, really believe that Riot is so far ahead of its competitors, even Blizzard. If you look at the technology end of it, what Riot has done in the short amount of time, if I were Blizzard, I'd be embarrassed. You've had about a decade's head start on this company, and look at what this new company has done.
That being said, Valve's been doing it for 10 fucking years, so let's not forget that.
Well, but here's the thing again, right? You're again highlighting example of somebody just kind of rested on their laurels. They didn't drive it. They had a decade to do something really innovative, and they regurgitated old content. The very same thing that you would argue, let's say, oh, Activision is putting out another Call of Duty title. Yeah, well, so Activision's big next play is another Counter-Strike title. It's not any more interesting. And I think that Riot has really, really done something different. I think that if I were a betting man, I would put a lot of money on the future Riot. Their executive team's sharp. They know what they're doing, and their strategy is sound, and they just keep pushing the bar farther and farther compared to their competition. And more companies like Riot that get it, that invest the dollars in the technology, in the recent, and this is another company that I feel doesn't get it, in the recent Battlefield 3 patch, they've included a spectator mode, right? And if you look at the war between EA and Activision in Battlefield versus Call of Duty franchise, every step of the way, EA has been late to the game, right? They're adding a spectator mode, something Call of Duty's had for a long time. Call of Duty is now saying, you know what, we really need to do a lot more for esports. We promise you in Black Ops 2 we're going to do something different. And by the time, again, EA catches up, in my humble opinion, they're going to get left behind. And now the speed is starting to change because of companies like Riot, who all of a sudden give casters tools that StarCraft right now doesn't have. And since there isn't a Counter-Strike title that we're looking at, when it comes right down to it in the moment, as an audience member, what's more entertaining to me? Look, as soon as a caster can slow down an encounter and be able to talk about the skills used and the strategies used in a gank scenario, when you're having sort of a team battle around a Barons or around the Dragon, you've now changed the ability for us to grow, so I can have someone who doesn't know anything about League of Legends. I have a great tool to teach them, right? I'm not drawn into the game trying to catch them up later. I actually have a caster who's kind of with us, just like we are in football or basketball, with us on that journey. And I just think Riot's really changed the game, in my opinion. I don't know if that's something, David, that you guys obviously, I imagine now, have completely new opportunities for League of Legends when it comes to IPL 5 and how that game gets displayed.
Yeah, and then this is what I meant by, like, we haven't even done it right up to this point. That's why I want to focus on it. And then this is why I picked League of Legends last year. You know, I had a pleasure of meeting their team, their executive team as well. I just think that not even the technologies, is the thought process, and they're just really thought leaders in the industry. And then this is what I meant by.
They took a long time too. They took a long time to release that spec client. It's been in beta for like a year. It's been in production for a long time.
Yeah, and then this is why, what I meant by, like, the next generation of publishers, right? They need to basically, embrace the community, like what Riot has done, Blizzard has done in the past, as well as Valve, right? But then even go the extra step, just like what Riot has done, right? Talking to us, asking us which features are critical and working with us to grow the community. And then that's why I think that, what I look for in a partner as far as a publisher is concerned. And this is why, Bloodline Champion may be a really, really good game, but then if I don't see the same type of, thought process from the publisher perspective, I don't want, it takes a second fiddle to basically the right partner, right? So I want to focus my time and energy on the person who's going to be around.
Yeah, and that's like, in the end, I suppose, my personal problem with Valve is with and once again, got to mention CS:GO again. The thing about CS:GO, man, is everything that you need to make it a competitive title is already there. I mean, you talk about a spec client, they've had one for years. You talk about the fact that everything can be built into the HUD, it can be slowed down, it can be replayed, you can make sure that you don't miss a shot by having someone in HLTV and someone in live view at the same time. It's all there, but you need someone to go that extra step, and that's historically not been Valve. So anyway, I know we're going to wrap up, but like always, I do have a last question, and this is just about about your general feeling about IPL 4. I just want to know your quick opinion or your quick sort of emotion. You're watching there, you're sitting there at the GSTL finals, right? You get a disconnect with MKP, all right? And then the entire crowd, you have 40 Blizzard execs, I think is what you said, in the crowd at IPL 4, and the entire crowd starts chanting, "We want LAN." What in the hell went through your mind there? Like what? Like what emotions are you like trying to cover Mike Morhame's ears? Like
that was a spicy situation.
I think that was a good situation.
There was some
I love the fact that it happened in an IPL and then with Mike in the audience. Because maybe we're responsible for the reason why Heart of the Swarm has this replay connect feature, right? The resume feature that's in there.
That'd be a good pitch. I don't necessarily think it's true.
No, but they're working on it for years. So honestly, just being given, for me, it just, shit happens, it just, when first thing that appeared in my mind as I'm going, man, how much downtime are we going to have? And that was my primary concern, because I really, and mindful of the people on air, and we, measure ourselves just like any TV broadcast show. So we have interruption. So this is kind of like the down signal, where you just get no airtime and whatsoever and no content. I just want to be up as quickly as possible. That's why I went back there and just want to make sure that, it comes back up and it's actually brought back in a fair way. And also, I was talking to Mike, I was talking to Dustin, I was talking to Chris, they were part of the crowd. And I just want to make sure that, they understand that, I will not point fingers. And this is why I went into the depth and actually talk about the technical reason behind the scenes, just to make sure that, when I carry my name and my brand, one thing that's important about me is integrity, right? So if it is if something is going to be solved by land, they would have heard it, And we basically, I had the network engineer write up the root cause, and that's why I posted on Reddit. And really, we lost a DHCP release, and for a stupid reason. It was a misconfiguration that the hotel has to protect their own revenue, which is internet connections. They monetize that stuff. So anyways, and then the key here is that I just want to make sure that we treat the situation fairly, and Blizzard, they should have the glory for a great game, and they should also, feel some of the heat if there's an issue, it is from a technical perspective that they could have solved, right? And they did with Heart of the Swarm. Now they have a feature that would resolve that problem, right? So, Marine King Prime, could have lost that game, so that I know that's debatable, parting versus Marine King Prime, but, we could have seen the conclusion of it if that technology was there, at IPL4. So anyways, that was it. What's on my mind. Honestly, one thing you have to know about me when under the most stressful situation, I'm actually the most calm. It's when there's nothing that's happening, I get the most chaotic and I get irrational at those moments. So when that happened, I was really, really calm, and there's no, we just really focus on resolving the issue in the right way.
So, since you mentioned Mike, did you ever play poker with him?
I don't know. I think that knowing him, he's a great guy. I think that he has an engineering background, so most of the time, the question that he asked me were technically related. So the engineer, I'm going to protect him. I say that, he probably could take your money. No, just kidding. I remember, I don't know if you knew this, but I think back in 2006 at DICE, they had a celebrity poker tournament. Uh-huh. And he took second place. I think it was actually him and Ray from BioWare. And that's why I remember his claim to fame. That was a while ago now. Like I said, it was like back in 2006. But I heard he can play a mean game of poker, so... He definitely could. I think he could hold that constant smile. He's a very gracious person. You don't know if he's bluffing or not.
All right, Jason, I'm going to turn it back to you as we got to wind down here.
Yeah, most definitely. David, I can't say thank you enough because this interview really has been quite enlightening. And I'm really excited to see where IPL goes from here. I think you really are doing a service for us. I mean, the AMD Intel thing was the perfect analogy. And you guys are really bringing it to the table and forcing everybody to step their game up. So it's good. This is good. So thank you for helping drive that innovation. It's really appreciated for all of us in the esports world. So thank you for that. And thank you for taking some time out and joining us here on the Losers Bracket as well. Any shout-outs, any words before you leave us?
Just want to thank you guys for the opportunity. Again, I'll be open to another discussion a few weeks or 3 months from now. Just, keep us in a rotation.
Most definitely. We'll definitely have you back. That's very kind of you. We look forward to it. And once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, sir.
Yeah, thank you, David. And thank you for employing people. That's one of the best things you do, which is get people work and get them jobs. So anybody who employs people in esports, we all owe you a debt of gratitude because that keeps talent in the industry. So thank you for doing that.
You're most welcome.
And Check 6 made it to the IPL Team Arena. Yeah.
I know. And fingers crossed for you. One of my main man, Sleep, is there. So fingers crossed for... Yep. So I think you guys are going to do well.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, David.
Take care, David. Have a great night.
Have a great night, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
He's always a lot of fun, man. to me, he brings something different to the table. You don't, you know. I really think so. You know, because he is kind of an outsider, but he knows what he's talking about too. You know, so it's very a different situation. You have Adam on the show, or Sunday that's on the show, which are both amazing people, but they're not necessarily outsiders. You know, they're as some people like to say, the old guard. Yeah, you know, they've been around for a very, very long time.
Oh, wow.
So.
Did we transfer over from Counter-Strike people being the old guard to that? Well, I don't know about that. That's spicy.
Yeah,
That's spicy. Here we go.
They're still old guard. I mean, come on. You know, just because they didn't play Counter-Strike doesn't make them not old guard.
Oh my goodness.
But, good
show.
show,
say, Jerry.
No, I was going to change the subject because I think. I think what's really great is that we are getting more people employed. Like, I want to see people successful, but we do need to grow. Like, that's something that a lot of people need to be focused on. You know, we need to grow, and we need to start looking to get more people involved in what is esports, and hopefully that's going to happen over time. By the way, Kurt, I am so glad I don't live in North Carolina. I got to tell you that.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I wish I didn't either. I wish you wouldn't even told people that I did. I'm pretty ashamed today. So. Yeah,
I'm sorry. So for those of you that don't know, in North Carolina, you can only get married or be in a. You can't even get into a civil union. You got to be man and woman. So 21st century will not arrive in North Carolina anytime soon, Kurt.
I think we're still in the 19th? maybe 18th. Yeah, we're back there. We're back there, buddy.
Yeah, eventually you guys will get civilization to it. It's bound to come down. So,
eventually.
But yeah, so what I do think is important though is that we sort of walk away, and the one really important thing is that I love what Major League Gaming does because as VV Gaming as an organization right now today, we have a much greater ability to participate in what MLG does than we do at IPL. But IPL's got to start somewhere, and they're going to look at the top teams, and that's probably the right place to start. But open qualifiers help what they're doing a lot, I think.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I disagree. For me, it's and hopefully you'll be able to see this a little bit more, Jerry. You know, towards IPL 5 especially. To me, it's a lot easier to get coverage at IPL. You know, and it's not necessarily MLG's fault by any means. It's just the way that right now their system is set up. It's you know, they're showcasing pool play a lot more. Once again, understandable, but I really like the fact that he said that they're going to try not to showcase too much on pool play. I don't know what that means yet. It could mean that, you know, all hell's going to break loose, you know, and it's going to be a completely, you know, messed up system, but I hope it's not. I hope they choose to do it wisely and you know, can really showcase some of the players. Because I really think for David, especially, Scarlett was a really big awakening for him. You know, he's like, hold on, we have people in our open bracket that can beat Koreans. You know, it was kind of an awakening for him. So it's good to see. Good to see.
Most definitely. Well, gentlemen, I think it's about time that we wrap this up.
I agree. I think it's time to say goodbye.
Yes, indeed. As always,
farewell. I don't know the rest of that song.
I'm ashamed of you. So, as always, definitely want to thank our sponsors, Control Freak, Steel Series, Gamer Grub, the band Power Glove for supplying their music to us. Thank you. Big shout out as well to everybody that's in the stream that stayed for the entire show. We have incredibly loyal following, and we really are appreciative. Thank you guys so much. As always, I implore you, spread the word, let people know. Tonight was an absolutely amazing interview with David Ting, and I really would love to see more people get the chance to hear the words that he spoke here tonight. If you have any feedback for us, like normal, right here at the bottom, we got all of our Twitter handles. Tweet to us. You can email me directly, paradise@vvv-gaming.com, with any feedback that you might have. And we're always here every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Got some really good content coming for you next week. I think we're going to do some League of Legends next week. Very popular title. I think it's about time we brought some players on. So I think that's what we're going to be planning as of right now. Let's see how that turns out. Before we head out, though, Kurt, any sort of shout-outs, my friend?
Shout out. I didn't get to do this last week. I completely forgot, or the other week. Shout out to Chobo Peon, who does the eSports Reporter. He's kind of took a little hiatus from it, which is understandable. It's probably hectic to do a show every day like that. But he actually did call us in his episode on, I think, 4/25, 2012, I think is what it was. He said that we were the most underrated show in esports.
Oh.
I'm not sure if you remember that or not, but yeah, I mean, so he said definitely check us out. So definitely thanks to him for recognizing what we do, and I appreciate that. I'm sure everybody else does. MLG will be broadcasting the invite-only qualifiers this week. They did it today for Korea. They'll do it, I think, North America and Europe later on in the week. Please watch that. You will be surprised of some of the results. I know some of the results. They are very, very surprising. Please watch them. Really, really interesting games. And then you'll get to see who's going to make it to the Arena 2.
Jerry, before we head out, take the floor.
Yeah, I want to thank our community for, in a week, raising over $3,000.
Amen to that.
You're awesome. That's fantastic. We're going to be bringing new new VVV Gaming jerseys to MLG Anaheim. And I'm pretty happy. I'm going to be working on a talent factory idea as we start to think about more of the skills and capabilities that are needed in esports and how we as VV Gaming can kind of help create those, because I think there's going to be more employment opportunities for those that are in esports. And, I really appreciate the fact that, we have probably, and just this has really grown over the last couple months, just some of the smartest fan base in esports. We definitely, you don't come to the show because you're bored and you've got nothing else to do. You come to the show because you want to learn about what's going on behind the scenes and what some of the top executives are thinking. And I appreciate those of you that are interested, especially for those of you that are going to work in esports one day. Today there was big news. I thought really big news in that Google has invested some money. Machinima was able to raise a significant amount of money, for those of you who didn't catch that on Twitter. And, this is going to breathe a lot of life and opportunity into the Machinima brand. Now, there are a lot of people who came to me and said, oh, Jerry, Machinima's going downhill. Machinima's this. And I kept telling him, I don't think so. It doesn't add up like that to me. It doesn't, you can say what you want. I see it the other way. I think they're in a great position because they focus on something that a lot of other people are not focusing on, and that's content, produced content. And that's going to keep them around for a long time. And really, the more people that we have that are putting financial dollars behind organizations that are helping esports, Machinima is going to have its own esports channel. I mean, that's fantastic. And those are the kind of things we want to see. And there's going to be plenty of opportunity for those who want to create content to sort of go forth and do so. So if you're looking to how can I work in esports, creating content, producing consistent content. To be honest, that's not streaming, but it's making a television show on the internet of some kind and doing something that's creative and that people are going to be interested in and they're going to watch. And with that, we're going to launch a new League of Legends show. We just put episode 1 out of something called Summoner's Herald. And basically, it's going to be sort of a wrap-up of the League of Legends scene done by our very own Fourth Oracle. And he showed me the pilot, and it was a very stripped-down pilot, no background, just, I said, shoot it straight, nothing fancy, don't get all dressed up, just show me what you're going to do. And I really liked it. So we even threw that up on the YouTube channel. So for those that are out there, take a look at it. It's called Summoner's Herald, and it's done by Fourth Oracle. Also, a couple things I also want to pitch out there. For those of you that may not know, we also, Diablo 3 on the 15th. So next Tuesday, wow, it's going to be painful. Next Tuesday's Diablo 3. I'm going to have to really, really suffer through a loser's bracket, knowing that I could be playing Diablo 3. And also, I want to again give a shout out to CD Jr., who now is officially, I can say, sponsored by NOS. Mm-hmm. In a matter of fact, finally NOS followed me on Twitter. I feel important now. And then I also want to give a big, big, big grateful thank you to Major League Gaming for being gracious and inviting me to come to Anaheim and paying for my flight and hotel. That was very generous of Major League Gaming, and I deeply appreciate that. it feels good to be appreciated. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. So with that, again, a big shout out to the VV community and staff who works hard. I know I'm hard on you, but we have a very important summer of esports, and we want to continue to be carving out the niche that we do. We're very special, and I think people realize that. So let's keep doing what we're doing.
Amen to that, Jerry. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in Anaheim, just about a month from today, actually, I believe. So
Indeed.
That's going to be pretty exciting. A couple of shout outs from myself as well before we head off the air. I want to shout out CD Jr. as well. He's actually just been invited over to MLG, did a thing with them for Max Payne 3. The content on that will be coming out shortly, right before the game launch. So definitely stay tuned for that, because that's going to be pretty darn neat to see a Mortal Kombat player competing against other pros in a shooter. So that'll be fun. Definitely want to check that out. Shout out to another one of our community members as well, by the name of Relentless M. He actually has a little bit of a contest going on right now where you could win a prestige token to use on Modern Warfare 3. Videos on YouTube. I'll link it right in the chat. If you're still here, check it out. Big props to him for throwing that contest together. It's pretty awesome. And then I think that's about it. Jerry, why did you have to remind me Diablo 3 next week? I'm so absorbed into League of Legends. How could you do this to me? I don't know where I'm going to put my time. I'm actually struggling with that internally. It's very tough.
Actually, I have a great example, so I'm going to pick on one of our people. Hey, this goes out to Cheddar Terran, who his quote sadly becomes my example. He goes, "What's the big deal about Diablo 3? Isn't that some sort of crappy hack and slash with a lot of grinding?" Yeah, Cheddar, you're absolutely right. You are so right. That's all it is. People just aren't that smart. But thankfully, because sentences like that, I will now reevaluate my experience with Diablo 3. Because Lord knows, right? Lord knows that if I didn't have intelligent people like you pointing out that I'm probably wasting my time, I wouldn't be able to get there. Thank you so much for that thoughtful, provocative, and very, very sort of intelligent comment. Thank you. You are my hero.
And with that being said, I feel like I need to go do something with my life. It's the end of the show. Have a good weekend, everybody. Play some games. See you here next Tuesday night. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.